I guess just as, for starters, just a general question about your relationship with Nirvana. What was the initial impression of them in terms of their professionalism or how they approached recording?
Very serious. They understood that this was an opportunity. No attitude, nothing. They just said, how do we do this? Where do we set up?
So in terms of the recording, I've read, correct me if I'm mistaken, that there were some technical issues working with Nirvana in the studio. Is this correct?
Well, all of the blues style stage destruction they would do at the end of the set. The guitar and the guitar amp were fine, but the drums were pretty messed up, and the bass was as well, and the bass amplifier. So I think one pickup was working on the bass, one speaker was working on the amp. Do you know about Chad's drum kit?
Yeah, it was like way too big for him, right?
Well, that being said, but it was made out of fiberglass. It was a very specific kind of drum set that was made popular by Billy Cobham and various jazz fusion drummers, and it was made of plexiglass. And, so no wood, no nothing, just black plexiglass. So it had a sound kind of like 5-gallon plastic buckets or something like that. It's worth noting that Chris's bass and Chad's drum set are like 80s garbage, instruments that no one cared about anymore. And that's how they got to Aberdeen. Although, actually, I think the drum set might have been from Yakima. You might have got that in Yakima. But even that big drum set, that was a North Drum Kit Junior. So the actual North Kit is bigger. Yeah.
So considering they had, at the time, I guess, subpar equipment, how did you approach recording the gear? Did you have to do anything unique that you wouldn't typically do?
Well, actually, I love the way the North Drum Kit sounded. That's the drum kit on Bleach. And in particular, I love the tom-toms because it's just one thing that's a little bigger, so there's no character variation. It's exactly the same sound, just a little lower and a little lower and a little lower. So I didn't do anything special with that, except that Indino told me that he mic'd them from the inside, which is a unique thing you can do with drums like that, because that way you don't get any hi-hat or cymbals or any bleed, but because it was made of plexiglass. And also, you've seen pictures of them. I mean, it looks like a ship's, exhaust pipe. I mean, they bent forward, right? Maybe you haven't seen that. The tom-tom's a very unusual construction. And you can get right up inside, and apparently they sound the same from the inside as they do from on top.
Really?
So I jammed the microphones up inside, and then he never hit them. Which over 5 songs, he barely hit them, and it pissed me off, because that was my favorite thing about that drum kit.
So you mentioned that the guitar amp you guys used was okay. Do you remember which type of amp it was?
I think it was the same amp that Gary Lee Conner was playing through at the time, which was a small solid-state PV with a 12-inch speaker. And just a shitty way to make a good sound, but it sounded fine. But yeah, traditionally people would use tube amplifiers and, Fender twin reverbs or Marshalls or things like that. So using a solid state PV is pretty grotesque. There's only so many ways to record somebody at the music source. We'd have some isolation rooms, and I set up, Kurt in one room and Chris in another room, and then I explain we keep the doors halfway open so everything bleeds in and you get a little bit of sound that way.
In terms of your relationship with the band, how did you guys first meet?
Because of all of my friends in Olympia and all of their friends in Olympia, we had lots of mutual friends, and they did play a show in Ellensburg. They were friends with the Screaming Trees, so that's how they ended up in Ellensburg, playing. I didn't meet Nirvana then, but we kind of said hi to Chris, and yeah, I don't think I talked to him until I recorded them.
So you recorded 5 songs. 2 of them, Stain and Been a Sun, got on to the Blue EP, and then the other songs, Token Easter Song, Polly, and Even in His Youth, they were released later on. Do you know why those 3 songs were shelved for a little bit?
They were never finished. The other 2 were finished. The other 2 were mixed. Where the other 3 were just, things that we never got around to. I think we were going to finish them, but that never happened. And so later on, Jack mixed those tracks. I think the big thing you can hear is on Been a Sun and Stain, there's one guitar overdubbed to make the guitar a little bigger, and the vocals were overdubbed. Where the other three songs you mentioned, those are all live scratch vocals. I mean, Kurt's scratch vocals were very good, and I recorded them very well. But I wasn't intending on using them as the finished vocals.